Welcome, everyone, to our Bleacher Report bracket unveiling for the first week of February. I'm Andy Katz. We're going to do this every week up until Champ Week on Tuesdays at 1 o'clock Eastern Time. So, also, just a little housekeeping item here. On February 17th, so a week from Saturday, we are going to get the official top 16 reveal from the Men's Basketball Selection Committee. That's going to occur at 12:30 Eastern Time on CBS. Immediately following at 1 o'clock right here on this app, we will break it down. It's the first snapshot from the selection committee, who they think, and they've done it for real, it's not going to stick, but at that moment in time, who should be on the first four lines of this year's tournament. So, what I did was waited till late last night, Monday night, because it did have an effect on the number one seeds. Kansas was playing Kansas State, and Kansas had just beaten Houston over the weekend, easily. Kansas goes to K-State. So I was really wrestling between Kansas and Houston for that last number one spot. Kansas loses at K-State in overtime, and the metrics lean more toward Houston based on that result. So our number one seeds for February 6th, Purdue, UConn, North Carolina, and Houston. What we're going to do here is go through each bracket. We'll pause in between, take some questions, and then take questions on the back end. Again, there are a lot of factors into who makes it, where they're seated, and we will address those in some of your questions as well, because I've already seen them coming in on my social media. All right, let's go with the Midwest bracket first. And this would be on your upper left, I guess, for lack of a better term, because it's going to be Midwest, West, East, South is where we're going to do this. So Midwest bracket, Purdue's your one seed, as you can see there. I don't know if it is for you guys, but it is a little blurry right here for me right now. Hopefully we can clear that up a little. But hopefully you can see it a little clearer. Or if you can't, go to our social media, March Madness MBB, certainly NCAA.com as well. And it is starting to crystallize as I'm saying this. So that's good. Now it looks good. All right, great. Purdue is your one. Again, they've got the best metrics of any team in the country. You can quibble about who looks better, Purdue or UConn. They're both going to be ones, barring a complete collapse in the last 5 weeks. But Purdue continues to get quad one wins. They just keep racking them up. So we got South Dakota State, Central Connecticut, that's the Summit, and the NEC as a 16 game in Dayton. Then St. Mary's, Indiana State. First off, St. Mary's, I wrestled with this. So they're an 8 right now, but I really believe St. Mary's could climb all the way to a 5. Not there yet. Just won at Gonzaga, but they could run the table in the WCC. They could do what Gonzaga used to do in the WCC. Indiana State also, I think, could move off that 9 line higher up, maybe as high as a 7, based on if they can run out the rest of the way. Now they have a difficult schedule. They still more than likely are going to have to play maybe Drake again in Arch Madness. Utah State, Grand Canyon. Utah State right now tied for first in the Mountain West Conference. Grand Canyon having a great season in the WAC. Already beat San Diego State at home. If Grand Canyon is a 12, a lot of people are going to pick them as an upset to win. Creighton Irvine. Creighton just lost to Butler at home. So they're like right now, they're like that last 4 on those top 4 lines. They're holding on by a thread. I will not be shocked if Creighton drops between now and February 17th. Irvine right now at the top of the Big West. San Diego State and Butler. San Diego State wins home games. They got to win some road games in the Mountain West Conference. Butler, I think, is, again, that win over Creighton puts them in position to be in the NCAA tournament. They're trending in the right direction. Baylor, High Point. High Point's had a great season. Baylor just beat Iowa State at the buzzer. Big game against Kansas this weekend. Oklahoma, Utah, Tennessee, Drexel. Utah has had a weird season. They've looked really good at times, have some quality wins within the Pac-12, a few out, and then they've had some bad losses. But again, when you get in that back part, the 10, 11, 12, you're really splitting hairs as to who can stand out. And Utah's metrics across the board keep them in right now. Oklahoma, they've been all over the map as well. So that 7 for Oklahoma is very tenuous. I feel very comfortable that Tennessee will hold it 2. And then Drexel right now is atop the Colonial or Coastal Athletic Association. So before we move on, I would say this. The 1 and the 2 here, whether they stay there or not, I think Purdue and Tennessee will be 1s and 2s. I think Purdue will be the 1 in the Midwest. I think St. Mary's and Indiana State could go up. Utah State could go down. Creighton could go down. San Diego State and Butler could go up. Oklahoma could go down. Utah could be out. That's sort of where I see the Midwest. Let's go to the West. All right. This is where I said this would have been Kansas if they'd beaten K-State. So now Houston's in that slot. Again, this could change. For now, they're the 1. Nebraska, Colorado State. Nebraska's played so well, a couple overtime losses. I kind of feel that they're going to be in that 8-9 range, and the same with the Rams. Won't be surprised if that holds in some form or fashion. South Carolina, our team of the week, great week. Road win at Tennessee, road win at Georgia, avenging an earlier Georgia loss. I think the Gamecocks, a week from Saturday, they keep winning, could be on that 4 line. Then we've got Washington State and Seton Hall. Washington State is sneaky good right now, okay? 4 Pac-12 losses. They've already beaten Arizona. Kyle Smith is doing a phenomenal job. They got crushed in the transfer portal. Here they are. Shaheen Holloway doing a great job at Seton Hall. They've hit a little bit of a speed bump. So we'll see if both those schools can hang on here. But I think the jobs that Kyle Smith and Shaheen Holloway have done have to be applauded. Outstanding by both of them to even be in this position in early February. Duke 4, App State 13. So again, Duke loses to Carolina, beat Virginia Tech earlier on the road this past week. I think the highest Duke could get is a 3. They could fall to a 5. They're going to be somewhere in the 3 to 5, depending on what happens in the next month. BYU, Mississippi State, Providence. So that's a 6-11. Again, BYU, quality wins of the Big 12, a couple of losses that are a little, I wouldn't say suspect, but, hard in the league. Excuse me. Mississippi State and Providence. Again, those are 2 schools that I think are holding on similarly to Washington State and Seton Hall, Utah. Providence without Bryce Hopkins, it's been under 500. It's a tough go, but they had a great road win last week. The Bulldogs have struggled so far. So come down to metrics, like who are you going to put in at that 11th spot? I think if either one of those schools gets in, it's going to be in Dayton. So when you've got Washington State, Seton Hall, Mississippi State, Providence, if those are the 4 that get in, my gut is they will all be in Dayton. Not convinced they're going to move that much higher. Arizona's a 3, Oakland at 14. Wildcats escape with a home win over Stanford, avenging an early loss. And they still could get to a 2. They're not going to get to a 1. They already have losses to Washington State and Stanford. Northwestern A&M, another weird resume. Great home wins. Best road win will probably be at Ohio State. Northwestern, beat Purdue, beat Michigan State, Maryland, Illinois, Dayton, all at home. Those are 5 really good wins at home. Their road win at Penn State, I think, will increase its value. So Northwestern, I think ultimately, and they got a big game tomorrow night, Wednesday night, against Nebraska at home. Could they get to a 6? Yes. Are they going to be 7, 8, 9? Possibly. A&M's just got to hold its home court, and they'll be in. Marquette, I think, is solid as a 2. Eastern Washington right now in the Big Sky. All right. So before we go to the East and the South, let's take a couple questions. So Hurley Face 2 says, so yesterday, he's talking about Monday, Katz had Arizona as the 5th best team in the country, but today he's got them as a 3 seed in the West. Okay. So let me address this. Rankings are not the same as seedings. I have them as the 5th best team because in this particular week, top 10, they are back atop the Pac-12. They're playing better basketball again, and everyone around them lost in the rankings. But for the seeding, you have to look at the overall body of work. So we are going to see a number of examples where teams have better top 25 rankings, which, by the way, the committee does not look at all. I'll give you another great example. Let's say Wisconsin had won Sunday. Wisconsin then would have been in first place in the Big Ten, ahead of Purdue. But you know what? In our bracket, Purdue would have been 1 seed and Wisconsin at best a 2. Body of work. Standings, rankings, it's not the same. David Gaines says Northwestern has a lot more winning to do and make it in, let alone as a 7. I disagree. They've got 4 quad 1 wins, and it's also by percentage. So if I'm not mistaken, I think they were 4 and 6 last week. So if you're like 4 and 15 versus 4 and 6, it's all about your percentage as to how the committee looks at it. So they're in a good position. BYU at 6 is outrageous, says JT Shim. I think it could be higher than probably, but the metrics like them. And the last question is, can Marquette get a 1 seed? It's a good question. I think they still can. So the Big East still could get 2 instead of the Big 12. We'll see what happens with Houston and Kansas. All right, let us shift to the East and then the South. By the way, someone says it's a soft West bracket. It probably would be the weakest. I agree with you. Okay, UConn is the 1. I think that is a lock. You can take that. It's done. They're going to play in Brooklyn and then Boston, assuming they get through Brooklyn. Locked in. And Purdue will go Indy and then I think it's Detroit. For some reason I'm blanking, but I think it's Detroit. Definitely Indy. Colgate, Patriot, Michigan State, Clemson. Clemson's trending the wrong direction. Michigan State, I think, could get higher. Clemson could end up being a double-digit seed. And still could play themselves out. Florida Atlantic, Yale. FAU probably can't get higher than a 5 because there's not enough out there in the American for them to move up. Yale, it's going to be Yale or Cornell, unless Princeton can win the Ivy League tournament, which certainly could happen. Iowa State, Louisiana Tech. Iowa State obviously thought they should have won the other day against Baylor. I feel good about the Cyclones. They got that win over Kansas at home, Houston. I think they're going to be in that top 4 line when the reveal comes out February 17th. Texas Tech and Virginia. Virginia absolutely obliterated Miami last night. 38 points, 60-38. The Red Raiders, hot, stumbled a little. I think they're going to follow in that 6-7 range. Virginia, if they keep winning, they're going to move up. I could easily see Virginia being in an 8-9 game. Alabama, Akron. That would be an absolute battle. The way Nate Oates and John Gross coach those teams, that would be a great matchup. Alabama is trending in the right direction, top of the SEC. Played a lot of great games in the non-conference, didn't win them. So I think 3 is probably their ceiling. Texas, Boise. Again, Boise, late surge, tied with Utah State. Big game this week against Utah State. And Texas, they've been all over the map. So 7 feels good to me about where they've been. Wisconsin, Morehead State. The Badgers, I think, will end up on the 2 line unless they've lost 2 in a row. They go on head down in a bit of a spiraling pattern. They could follow the 3 line. Someone asked before we go to the South about South Carolina's ceiling. I think their ceiling's a 4. So let's go to the South bracket. There's North Carolina. What do I think? Cody, right off the bat, where do I think Carolina's ceiling is? They can win the whole thing. So we got them going against Norfolk State against Eastern Kentucky. Carolina will play in Charlotte, so huge advantage for them there. TCU, Ole Miss. I think Ole Miss could slide the other way. They could be a double-digit seed. TCU could maybe move up a spot. Dayton, Samford. I like the way Dayton is trending right now. I feel good about them as a 5. Don't know if they can get the top 4. Deron Holmes, by the way, is an All-American. Auburn, McNeese State. Wow. How about that matchup? Bruce Pearl, Will Wade. Old Auburn LSU. Shahada Wells from McNeese. Broom for Auburn. I know different positions, but still big-time talents. That would be quite a matchup at the 4-13. And by the way, McNeese could move up if they keep winning. Maybe 1 spot. Kentucky, St. John's. Now, this is sort of where we put this together. And then when after the fact, I'm like, wait a minute. Rick Pitino against his former school. I mean, how crazy would those storylines be? Will it happen? Who knows? Could it happen? Sure. I mean, Kentucky still could definitely climb from a 6. They've lost 2 home games in a row. So you would think that they can climb back up to a 4 if they get on a run. We'll have to wait and see. But they've already lost at home to Florida, home to Tennessee, at South Carolina. So it doesn't bode well based on who they've got left. And the Johnnies, the Red Storm, I mean, they got to keep winning. They're holding on by a thread at that 11 spot. So they may not make it. Illinois, Vermont. Vermont leading the America East. Illinois is a 3. Could Illinois get to the 2 line? Yes. Keep winning. Keep winning. New Mexico, Florida. Richard Pitino, Todd Golden. 2 young stars in the profession. Lobos, I think, could keep climbing. Disappointing home loss to Boise. Love their backcourt. I think they've got Sweet 16 potential. Florida has played a ton of close games. And they've been on both sides of them. And so the Lobos. Like, I would love that matchup. If we get a Lobo-Gator matchup, I think it'd be a great game. Great guards in those games. And then Kansas, Quinnipiac. Quinnipiac, Tom Pecora doing a great job at Quinnipiac, taking over for Baker Dunleavy. And the Jayhawks obviously have title potential, but they've had trouble on the road. But it's the Big 12. All right, let's go to some of these questions. So you don't see Kansas State on there. And someone asked, with their wins over Baylor and Kansas, will that get them in the tournament? So right now, they're my first team out after last night, after beating Kansas in overtime. Ultimately, I think K-State will get up there. They're sort of on the outside looking in out of the Big 12 right now. Same with Cincinnati. But I think K-State will get there. Barring a major letdown, do I think Nebraska is a lock if they get a road win? Yes. If Minnesota beats Michigan State, would they move in to be an 8-9 seed? No. Minnesota's got a lot of work to do. Bet says, last week you said Wisconsin could end up in Arizona. Do I still feel that way? Yes. In the right bracket, they can win 4 games. Blew a big-time lead in Nebraska. Game was over. So they played well in Lincoln until the last 15 minutes, and it just got away from them. And then they, turnovers late against Purdue was uncharacteristic. So, yes. Illinois' ceiling is they could be a Final Four team. Auburn's ceiling, I'd say Elite Eight. Memphis is out right now. They got a lot of work to do. Barely beat Wichita State to just stop the bleeding. Cam, yes. How far do I have South Carolina going? I think they are Sweet 16 worthy. No question. So I think that's all true. All right. So I would say overall, just put an umbrella on this right now. The one team you don't see on this list that I think will get in is Kansas State, especially after that win Monday night. They're right there. I think the fourth number one is up for grabs with Marquette, and I wouldn't rule out Tennessee either. Could nudge Houston or Kansas. Feel very confident about Purdue, UConn, and North Carolina. So all that, I would say. Just a lot of these teams are flawed. South Carolina, they're the one to watch to see if they can get up to that top 16 on February 17th. We will have a bracket, though, before that, next Tuesday, and we'll see what happens the rest of this week, where things are changing. So here's your housekeeping here. Mark these down. 3 1 o'clock live streams over the next week. We've got next Monday, AP Top 25. Next Tuesday, bracket. Then the following Saturday, Top 16. And then we'll go back to our Monday, Tuesday schedule. So a lot of these live streams coming up, breaking these brackets, Top 25, Top 16 reveals. As always, you can follow me at the Andy Katz, the real Andy Katz on Instagram. Go to Bleacher Report, the app, NCAA.com, March Madness MBB, where all of this information is archived for you. Appreciate the questions, and have a great rest of your day and this week. And we'll talk to you again on